Hey, welcome to the Push-Pull Sales and Marketing Podcast. I'm Marcella.
And I'm Sherry, and each week we'll provide you with sales and marketing strategies that you can implement immediately into your own business. Today, we're going to be talking about...
Wait for it. Timing.
The best times to post to social media, to post those blog posts, to send out your email newsletters, and to simply call people. Marcella's going to start us off with some best practices for calling those new prospects or qualifying leads.
Okay. We're going to hop right into it. And first off, some people will try to use this as an excuse to not make sales calls. So if you're trying to time the exact time of day and worrying about when you're going to talk to a prospect, and that's 100% of your focus, you should really put that aside. I mean, obviously, you do need to be making calls pretty much constantly, but all the studies and all the research has shown that some of the most effective times to make a cold call, and this is reaching out to a prospect for the first time, are first thing in the morning between 8 and 9 o'clock, and then actually at the end of the day between 4 and 6 o'clock. And a lot of that has to do with getting hold of the actual decision maker. Other salespeople, I hate to say it, no, I don't mind saying it, they're lazy, so they wait a little bit in the day to get started, and they're like, well, if I call him up and I bother him first thing, it's going to be a problem, and probably he's in a meeting, and then if I call him at noon, he's at lunch, and then he's just getting back from lunch, then you're not making calls throughout the day. But you want to reach out to him first thing in the morning, and also at the end of the day, if you're making some of your prospecting calls. The other reason why you want to start off your day making cold calls is for a lot of salespeople, it's probably the least liked thing that they actually have to do. Reaching out to new people, you have to deal with rejection, all that stuff. So it's best to get the hard things out of.
Calling?
I do, yes, I do. I like the process. I like reaching out to customers, and for me, I don't really have that high of a rate of people saying no and a higher rejection rate, because again, it's just how my tone, how I come across on the phone. And it's not to say that it doesn't happen, but I mean, if you like the process and you know what you're doing, it's no different than playing a sport.
And you've been doing it for a long time too.
Oh yeah. I mean, I've been doing it for a long time, both just setting appointments and also coaching other people how to do that, how to set appointments, and also coaching people how to sell directly over the phone.
But if it were me, that would definitely be my least favorite part, and I would keep postponing it until I could psych myself up to call some point later.
No, you want to get out of the way. I believe in immersion therapy. One other aspect when it comes to calling is also is how quickly you call to it, quote unquote warm lead. So if someone goes on your website and they download a brochure, in order to do that, they had to maybe give their information, their email, stuff like that. You want to reach out to that person, ideally within the first 5 minutes, but after 30 minutes, your chances of getting that customer goes down a lot. So as soon as someone reaches out and says, "Hey, I'd like a quote," or someone says, "Hey, I'd be more interested in having a comparison," or anything like that, you want to get a hold of that person right away. And I can tell you, first and foremost, for those people who are in the business, who maybe insurance or something like that, and you're getting your leads from a third-party from a third-party lead provider, you got to call those right away, because they're selling those same leads to 3 or 4 people, unless you're paying $50 or $60 a lead. And with life insurance, with any sort of insurance, it depends. You might not even make that much on the policy. You might not be guaranteed to bring that in. So if you are purchasing leads, call them up right away.
Well, and I can see that from a consumer perspective too. If I'm online looking for information, I'm looking to do it right then and there. I am probably not spending all day doing it. And if you call me an hour or two later, I'm on to the next thing or doing something else that my mind isn't in buying mode anymore.
Yeah, and that's good that you said that, because a lot of people who, when they put off calling, they tell me, well, they're probably just doing research, and I don't really want to bother them because they're looking up stuff. No, you want to cut that person off before they can go find your competitor, or before they can go to someone else, especially if you're selling something that's not a fairly high dollar product or something like that. So if someone's looking, and let's say your product costs $105, your competitor's product might be $117, another one might be $95. you're in the middle of the pack there, but they found you first. And be like, okay, hey, can I get this taken care of right now? Can I get this order placed? If they're researching, you want to get hold of them right away. Typically, when people are researching, is close to the point when they're actually ready to buy. Lastly, in terms of calling, and we can have another discussion on this. You want to call, follow up by email. That email should ideally come within 20 minutes of you actually leaving a voicemail. When you leave a voicemail, we talked about that in a different podcast. Leave your number up front, name, reason for the call. Let the person know, hey, by the way, I'm going to shoot you a quick email, and then name and phone number again. You want to do that right away. Your chances of getting a call back are going to be much better. And then lastly, you don't want to be discouraged. I keep saying lastly, and this is the last thing. And lastly, you don't want to be discouraged. On average, it takes anywhere from 6 to 12 calls to get a hold of the actual decision maker. So most salespeople are quitting on 1 to 2. So if you're persistent and you keep at it and you're going after them, you're already beating out 90% of your competition, because most people are not making calls past the first or second attempt.
12 is a lot. 12 is a lot of calls to make. So,
and when calls could be a touch to an email and anything like that. But
12 contacts.
Yeah, you can make 12 times, but not really. I mean, if you think 12 calls, if you call someone,
that's a lot of calls. Me not being in sales, that feels like a lot of calls.
Let's say
I'm just saying it's good. It's good to hear that, that might happen.
And sometimes people are like, all right, fine, who is this guy? Let me get a hold of him. And I mean, if you're leaving the person voicemails, you're not hiding behind anything.
Right. You're saying who you are. You're saying what you're doing. You're saying how you can help them, just like we covered before. But when you mention, you want to send the follow-up email, some of the email trends here, there's optimized times. If you use a service like MailChimp, with their paid subscription, you can use that service and they will actually help you optimize times. They're going to help you based on the time zones that your senders are in. They can actually send it out at the best time for each time zone, so they'll be going out separately. And it works really well with that. As far as in general, they say that Tuesday has the highest open rate. I guess Monday people are pretty swamped with catching up on everything, and by Tuesday, they're in email mode. It's recommended that you send like informational or educational email earlier in the week, and then the call to action emails later in the week. From what I have read, sending in the afternoon typically has a better open and click rate for emails, because people are a little bit less focused, a little less productive, and a little more prone to open emails, especially if you're sending out stuff, not necessarily talking about like a sales follow-up email, but more like promotional stuff.
And that's one thing with the calls too. To time everything, people check their voicemails typically first thing in the morning.
Right.
So and then at the end of the day, in case they missed anything. So if you can get someone before or while they're checking their voicemails, or while they're at their thing, or before they actually get bogged down, because again, if they're in and out of meetings, stuff like that, they might have 3 or 4 voicemails when they get back to their desk. Yeah. So it kind of goes. It goes way up in the morning for your percentage. It dips down in the afternoon when people are lazy. They're not answering the phone. They're checking their email.
Right.
And then later in the afternoon, they're like, oh shoot, I got to be more productive. They're answering
wrapping
the phone.
up for the end of the day.
Yep.
And then as far as if you're sending out an email that you need a reply to, maybe you're sending out customer surveys or feedback kind of stuff. If you're looking for that kind of stuff, people are actually more likely to reply in the evening, even though they're more likely to open or click, around 2:00, that early afternoon period. They're not going to take the time to type out a response unless maybe they're home, they're sitting on the couch, they're kind of relaxing and feel like it's worth sending you a response. Another general rule of thumb is to avoid weekends. A lot of people try to just turn everything off and avoid that for the weekends. I did want to cover, I mentioned time zones for the email. Of course, whether you're calling or posting to social media, posting your blog, time zone definitely comes into play if you're reaching a national audience. You might know that if you're targeting one specific person, sales lead, hopefully you know what time zone they're in, and you're going to have to make sure that you're aware of that. You can use a bunch of different tools.
And then when did you say is the best day to send emails?
Tuesday.
Tuesday
has the highest open rate.
Yeah, that's interesting because I'm looking at I was going through my notes here. Sorry for the noise. The best time to call. Again, it's funny because you can be productive all the time. It says Thursday and Wednesday. So emails right. Wednesday, emails Tuesday, call Wednesday, Thursday. That works out well.
Yeah. You can make that work. There's plenty of tools out there where you can test different strategies, so different email subjects, different calls to action, different social media posts, and analyze those and compare them to each other. You can use a couple different tools depending on how you're scheduling out your posts or your emails, or you can kind of, if you have a CRM, if you're tracking calls and stuff, you can kind of see for yourself when people seem to be the most responsive to you and your particular product in your particular industry. I also wanted to mention that the stuff that we're talking about in today's podcast has come from a whole bunch of different websites and different articles. I linked to all of them in the show notes on pushpullsales.com. So you can reference them there and I'm sure find some other stuff on your own. But there's some great infographics. Some of the articles dive in a little bit deeper than I'll have the chance to today. And it's kind of easier to reference that if you need to go back and look at it later. You won't have to listen all over unless you want to. You're welcome to. So that's kind of the email. If you're looking to post blog posts, morning is the peak time to post, but it's kind of, you have to decide what's going to work best for you because most people are posting in the morning. A lot of people are also reading in the morning, but that means there's a lot of noise and competition. You might want to toy around with posting at an off-peak time where there might not be as many people looking, but you also don't have quite as much competition.
And it might depend also on your audience too. But
I'm sure.
But one thing, I mean, if you post in the morning, are you talking about people that are automatically subscribing? I mean, are there different services that will say, "Hey, new post just came up," or does that come up on the RSS feed? Like, how do you know that that just posting in the morning that people are going to read it right away?
Right. So I guess it depends when your newsletters are going out. But if people are checking your website regularly, they might have gotten in the habit of checking every morning, or they're browsing their favorite sites in the morning, or people are coming across it and sharing it at that time. What I came across is that Monday 11 a.m. seems to be a peak time. So probably once they get a lot of the busy work out of the way. And I guess the difference is blog morning is not the same as phone call morning. 8-9 o'clock for a call. In blog world, 11 a.m. is still morning. But people have probably gotten some of the productive stuff out of the way and are starting to wind down before lunch. There is, it's called CoSchedule that I came across, and I think that will help you a little bit with the analytics, and you can help figure out what works best for you. It's also recommended to post like 2 times a week to the blog. I'm sure it depends what you're posting and what your site is and what your audience is, but anything less than 2 times per week is not really often enough to captivate your audience. Anything more than that didn't show a huge impact in readdership.
So at a point of like diminished, like did readership go down because of that, or just
no. It just
kind of peaked.
If you can't if you're trying to just keep up with something that you can be consistent with, shoot for twice a week.
So that's kind of like...
And don't kill yourself and burn yourself out.
So that's kind of like, there's a study that said, like, happiness, like, peaks at, like, $75,000.
Right.
You know, so blog Zen
right.
peaks at 2 blogs per week. But one thing that you mentioned, too, I mean, if you are doing two a week, you do have enough content out there where people are more willing to look. Like, if I go and I see your blog, and I saw the last time you blog was June,
right,
and then in like February, and then
right.
once in 2013. I'm like, all right, I'm not even going to bother with this person. I'm not even going
right.
to read.
Right. You definitely need it going up consistently, so that you don't fall off the radar. One thing about the audience stuff, for momshare.com, it's kind of nice for me because I am my own target audience. So a lot of the stuff that I would do anyway, when I have a free moment and I'm able to get my post up or send out some social media stuff, is typically when other moms are able to read it too. So, you know, mid-morning or nap time in the afternoon, or later that night after the kids have gone to bed. And we will touch on some of the social media peak times and recommendations. But if you like what you're listening, if you like what you're hearing so far, please subscribe and rate us on iTunes. It helps us out a lot and helps new people find our podcast. You can also email us at pushpoolsales@gmail.com or tweet us at pushpoolsales. We like to hear from you guys. We like to hear suggestions or any feedback. Any suggestions for future topics, any questions that you have, any stories that you have, you tried something out and it worked well for you, let us know. And like I said earlier, all the links for this info is in the show notes on our website, which is pushpoolsales.com. So, diving into social media, we'll start out with Twitter. So with blogging, you know, 2 times a week is good. Twitter 3 times a day is what they're recommending. And a lot of this I'm going to be saying is for brands. It's not as much, you know, personal use. You're going to tweet what you want to tweet. Be conscious of it. But if you're managing an account for a brand or for your own personal brand, 3 times a day is a recommendation. Most clicks happen early in the morning, but then most favorites and retweets happen in the evenings and late at night.
Now with Twitter too, you have to have the frequency up, because unlike with Facebook,
right, you're not going to see it later.
You're not going to, they're not going to say like, oh, blah 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 got married yesterday. On Twitter, it's going linear unless it does get a lot of likes, or it gets a lot of retweets, or people started following them, correct? Because sometimes you'll get alerts for that on Twitter, right?
I mean, if you go into kind of a different section, or if you're following up, but typically it's linear as far as I can tell.
I get alerts sometimes that said blah 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 also quoted,
right.
Or someone said so.
You know, a lot of people just retweeted this kind of thing, but I think that's like, you know, you're going to need a lot of traffic to make those alerts go out.
And it would be interesting to see when it comes out all the infographics for Periscope, because I think Periscope said that they have, 10 million people who signed up. I don't know how many people actually use it, because you know, some people might have bailed, or some people might have tried it. But it'd be interesting to see, because that you have a captive audience. But I wonder when would be the best times to reach out to and see that.
I would imagine evenings. A lot of the people that I'm following on Periscope and I'm trying to figure it out and kind of learn myself seems to be evening, because that's when people are available to swipe and actually watch a video. You know, you're probably not as likely to do that while you're at work. The highest volume of tweets happens from noon to 1. I guess while everybody's on lunch.
Yeah, everyone's taking. I mean, it's Instagram, but they're taking pictures of their lunch food and sharing it.
So again, do what you will with that. It means everyone's there. It also means there's a lot of noise, and what you're tweeting probably has a shorter life.
That's so sad.
Twitter does offer free analytics. I linked to that on the show notes here. And it says the best time for clicks for Eastern Standard Time is 11 p.m., which seems pretty late, but I could see that happening. It was interesting. There's an infographic again in the show notes where they broke it down per time zone, and some of the time zones really varied, which was interesting to see. So I would definitely check that out depending on where you're living.
East Coast, you have the New Yorkers and, Jersey and Pennsylvania and stuff like that, Florida, and then in Midwest, the culture is probably a little bit different. And,
early to bed, early to rise.
Yeah, and then LA might be the opposite, and they might be like
2 a.m.
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, I know people in LA or in that area that they're up at 5, 6 in the morning to surf. So maybe by the time they're done surfing or something, they're checking it.
Right.
I don't know.
It was also interesting, and it makes sense as well. If you're doing business to business type of stuff, you're going to want to be tweeting during the weekdays. But if you're doing business to consumer, you want to focus on weekends, but also on Wednesdays. For whatever reason,
everyone's kind of dug out of work because Monday they're catching up from all the voicemails from the week, everything from the week, and Wednesday they're finally caught up, and I guess they're more social. It's kind of like you after you had like 2 cups of coffee. Like I guess Monday is like 0 coffee sherry, and Wednesday is like 2 coffee sherry.
I guess. So Facebook, recommend to do 2 Facebook posts per day. Thursday and Friday are peaks in engagement. Makes sense, towards the end of the work week, the happiness index on Facebook, which they actually measure, spikes on Friday. I'm sure nobody's surprised about that. I say that the most shares happen at 1 p.m., and the most clicks happen at 3 p.m. So you might want to cater your content if it's something that you want more informational, that you want shared a lot. 1 p.m. might be your sweet spot. If you want clicks for a call to action, 3 p.m. might be your sweet spot. So, and again, Facebook offers a lot of analytics too. If you use a third-party thing, like Buffer or like Hootsuite, you'll be able to track some of those things as well and figure out what's going to work the best for you.
And one thing to point out too, with all this information, this information is fairly up to date.
Yeah.
It would be interesting to see how things might change in the next couple of years, especially as mobile becomes even more popular. But just kind of looking at that, I mean, anywhere else, I mean, no one's checking their Facebook on their work computer anymore. So I guess people are just playing with their phone and doing stuff like that. So a lot of this.
Does everyone take bathroom breaks at 1 o'clock?
Oh yeah, if you had a big lunch or something, I don't know. You drink a lot of water. It's possible.
As far as Instagram goes, 1.5 times a day is what they were recommending.
Is that like a selfie from like?
Yeah, I
like
don't know.
Just it shows like from the belly up, or
1 to 2 times a day. You're going to want to post to Instagram. You want to be pretty consistent, and the numbers are actually pretty consistent, which is interesting. They say that there's actually more activity on Monday. And less activity on Sundays. So
I figured there'd be more activity because Sunday fun day and selfies and out and about.
I think people are busy enjoying it, wrapping up the weekend, out doing their own thing. Then Monday they're tuning back in and wondering what everybody else was up to over the weekend.
I definitely have a hard time on Twitter and actually on all three of the social media too, and that's one thing to realize. Like sales and marketing are 2 very, very different things. I mean, they're definitely working hand in hand. So someone can be very good at marketing and maybe not have the sales side, and vice versa. So for your company, you really need to have all. You need to have all. You want to be running on all, so you want to have all aspects in there, but. I don't know how people can do that. I mean, two Instagram pictures and stuff like that. You have to say something witty every time. I mean,
you don't necessarily have to. The caption's really not as important on Instagram,
what about
which
the
is
hashtag?
nice. Hashtags help you get found, but again, not necessary if you're posting quality content. Off work hours definitely have more activity on Instagram, which is interesting compared to like Facebook. It seems like people are kind of checking throughout the day. Email, obviously, they're checking throughout the day. And I've noticed that with Instagram myself. If I post something in the middle of the day, it might get a couple likes or favorites or whatever you call it. If I post something to Instagram more like 9, 10 o'clock at night, I typically get a bigger response. So I do that for one of my clients that I'm working for, and I manage her Instagram account. Even though we are sending out social media posts and blog posts usually in the morning, because her target audience is also moms, Instagram still seems to work better at night. So I've been trying to test that out for her. I don't believe there's analytics available for Instagram. I mean, you just kind of, you can see how many people liked it. And you'll have to go through yourself and kind of remember when you posted it. I'm sure you could keep track of it if you really wanted to.
And all these sites are fairly new too. I mean, Instagram within the last 2 years, 3 years, it got bought up by Facebook.
Sound old.
Well, I mean, think about that. I mean, it's
I'm
not
just
that
saying,
new.
if 2-3 years is new in today's day and age, like Periscope is new.
I'm not sure how long it's been around. I mean, I know they got bought up by Twitter. So again, a lot of these companies. I mean, but for a business, I mean, to have that sort of audience and have that sort of interest.
That's a huge platform.
Gotcha. And speaking of interest, Pinterest, right?
Pinterest. So Pinterest, the recommendation is 5 times a day.
What do you...
Now, don't think that they were actually recommending doing this every day, but on peak days, 5 pins. So it's a little bit different than, Facebook, Twitter,
and fingernails
Instagram.
Can you post?
I have never gone on Pinterest and pinned anything less than probably 10 things.
Really?
Yeah, really. It's hard not to. So as you're scrolling through, it's hard not to keep repinning things. You can post new things. So, where you worry about oversaturating things on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, Pinterest seems to be the place where you can throw a bunch of things at your audience. Maybe switch it up a little bit. Don't have it all be about the same topic. But there's some leeway there.
And I would like to see an infographic on the difference and in the genders for a lot of these things too. Like Pinterest is mostly females.
I think one of the articles that I linked to does break it down, male versus female.
Oh, cool.
I'm not sure if that was across all platforms or if that was Twitter specific, but I think one of them had a graph showing the behavior there. But for Pinterest, Saturday and Sunday are definitely the times that you're going to want to post. Saturday and Sunday from 8 to 11 p.m. So it's definitely usually a business to consumer kind of model, and that's when they're looking. Activity peaks at 9 p.m. on Saturday and Sunday, and from what I've heard and my own personal experience, Sunday night seems to be the time to post. So for a while, Pinterest, you had to post then and there live. Now there are a couple third-party things where you can schedule out. So there's like Ahology and Buffer just added Pinterest, and there's a couple other ones.
And how many people are on Pinterest now versus like and this is just my personal opinion. I'm sorry, Pinterest, but like I feel like Pinterest is in last place for things like I'm even going to check. I mean, Facebook obviously
it's a woman platform, definitely. I mean, but a lot of the buyers and consumers are women, and a lot of people have had huge success with Pinterest because the click-through rates are good, it definitely is time consuming because you have to make sure you have a nice image, something, called a pinnable image where you have the text with it too, and have everything just so. But, there's people that have seen huge spikes in their traffic when they really put focus on Pinterest.
And there's no current way to promote something on Pinterest. There's no it's not like Facebook where you can boost a post.
Now there is. Yeah, they've kind of, where you can buy right from there. They have Pinterest for businesses, where you can get into a lot of that. But yeah, it could be a really good tool depending on who you're trying to reach and what you're trying to do. And like I said, if you need some more information, head over to our website, pushpullsales.com. There's a whole bunch of articles there, and thank you to all of those sites for providing that information. It's nice to be able to look at everything and kind of get a good idea. I think that pretty much wraps us up for this week. And we wanted to thank bensound.com for our intro and outro music. And if you guys have any questions, again, you can email us at pushpullsales@gmail.com or tweet us at pushpullsales. Thank you for listening. You can tune in next week where we'll tackle double tap another topic. If you have any questions, like we said, feel free to reach out to us, and we'll talk to you later.
See ya.